What's going on, guys? Emo Temp is back, and today I want to. I know it's super late, but better late than never, I always say. This is my World of Final Fantasy deck that I took to the reunion. We bubbled out at 19th place, I believe. X3 was final standings. I have actually all my matchups here, which I can pretty much remember for the most part. I really only had a problem with one thing, which we'll get into in a sec. Overall, just a great day as always. Got to see a lot of friends from all over the country, like always. And if you don't go to these events, you really should make an effort to do some of these this year. I feel like they're going to get better this year, and there's a lot more people. So I think it was, 86 final count for the day, 8 rounds. Everything went really well. But yeah, so we'll just talk about this. So I'm going to go over the deck, and then I have separate pieces, like separate slides here, just to go over things a little bit more. But yeah, I'll give you the overview here. This deck has kind of been growing a little bit. So I've been playing this pretty much since the start of 10, as soon as I realized Rain is ridiculously broke. And so for me, also this deck felt a lot like a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. It's very like combo centric, and like it also had that what's it called, the Scion feel to it, because everything gets haste, and like everything gets that eat up ability to shoot stuff. So it was really good. Then doing the playtesting, we realized that there was a couple things that were, although it is fast and it does work very well, it does have its own problems and obstacles like anything else, right? So first things first, double Seraphi. Opening this, this has been a good idea since, how old is this card? Opus 2, Opus 1. So I remember, playing this back in the day when you play triple of this, pray you open 2, and then, or, go first and open 1, so you could pitch it to get an earth forward back and then still be okay and still have a body turn 1. And so there was a lot of that. This now that this is back, it's actually really interesting. So easy way to deal with this is just make sure you pitch. If your opponent, if you're going first and for whatever reason you're going against WAF, or if it's a WAF heavy field, let your first turn pitch a forward, so it kind of prevents this. A lot of people don't think about that, but it does make a big difference against this deck. But yeah, so double Seraphi. I even considered playing triple for this reason, because I love that, being able to drop this turn 1 freely, get back any of my other forwards back, and then also present a backup. So I'm starting the game really strong. Triple Hyun, however you guys want to call it. She was integral to the deck. She's very strong, very low cost, and that's kind of what this deck does, is just drops a bunch of bodies, low cost bodies that have a big impact. She's probably the best one. That's why I kept her at 3. We went to 2 Frit. 2 Frit only because he doesn't do much. He honestly, I feel like he kind of slows down the deck a little bit. I think I might, if going forward, take this down to try the Bahamut soldiers as well, if I'm going to try this, because I want to add make it more useful, I guess. It also didn't help that I'm only playing 2 of this land, because he targets monsters and gives them Brave and plus 5k or whatever. But the main reason is because playing 2 of this land and 1 of the 3-drop old land, it just gives you a little diversity against going up against different matches. Also, this land goes under Felthanos, which is one of the main things this deck has as a problem. It doesn't really have answers for it, unfortunately. So I'll talk about some of the choices I made here going into that. So yeah, the 2-drop land is good for get to 7k and then start swinging out. But this guy's good to squeak in points of damage when your opponent's really full of himself. Like Hein can't block this. What's it called? Anything from the Rampier deck can't block this for the most part, like the Shantoto, the Garland, Felthanos, and things like that. So I brought this for that reason, because I had a feeling Rampier was going to be very strong, or really relevant, and sure enough, it was. But yeah, 1 Citra, just help you get back, because the summons are really important in this deck, and there is Fritz, there is 2 monsters here, so being able to get back any of those options is very useful. Also, she's the X Burst. I can't tell you how many times just testing this deck or playing against this deck. One of my locals here, Ian, also helped me test build. Like he and I were playing this deck a lot at locals, and bouncing ideas off each other. And the Citra is such a good idea for this deck. I think he plays double or triple, but I couldn't squeeze it in. Effectively he did better than me that weekend. I'm super proud of him. Maybe triple Citra is the way to go. But I am playing triple Gabranth. Gabranth just gets us all the big pieces. Ideally, we just want to get Rain, right? Like, Rain is the whole thing, so we want to make sure we have her on hand. But he also does get, the Brandellas, which searches as backups, which is very important for this deck. Terra's, same thing, gets their summons back and, helps us deal more damage. So it helps us finish off what the Waff guys can't, what they can't with those 4 and 8 targets. And if I don't have an extra forward, this kind of helps out. It also helps, pick back pieces that are important or that kind of, shift the game in our favor. Excuse me. Been a long week. Delita, we'll get into him more, but it's really just for the mirror match and a couple other things there. But he's another nice target, Earth, and it's very useful. Brandellis, like I mentioned, just helps you get. I'm only playing 2. I consider playing 3, but again, space seems to be an issue for this deck. So 2 is fine. I didn't need a third for the most part, but he helps us get the backup, so it's very good. 1 Cloud just to increase the EX bursts, and he does help a little bit as the game goes on. Again, anything that deals damage while you're able to finish it off, anything that deals damage and helps you finish off forwards that you can target is good in my book. So we're playing one of him. Triple Rain, obviously. Now the summon choices are a little different, I think, for the most part, but they're all very utility. I did a lot of 1-ofs. It's not my style, but this deck kind of filters enough, so we're able to get there. It filters enough and it recurs enough, so we can kind of fix that. Being able to play this Titan. Titan is one of my tech choices, so we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's definitely a really good card. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but this is probably my favorite summon from the new set. It's absurd. I think playing triple of this in any deck seems like a great idea. Being able to draw a card for 1 CP and give you another effect is just really useful. But yeah, its value is absurd in my opinion. So, and then 2 Kusith, a little bit of recursion. I'd like to play triple, but I chose to go with a Titan and a Hecaton instead. Hecaton's really for the Yunas, the 5-drop Yunas and other things in the Weewall matchup. So the main idea for all these tech choices is because I felt like after all the weeks we did at training at locals, I always felt like most of the games were. I felt like it was a rock paper scissors thing, right? I felt like this beats Rampier and this beats Weewall, but in the same respect, if they get off in a slightly a turn earlier, then it's very difficult for me. And so sometimes it feels like rock paper scissors. This beats Rampier beats Weewall, but Weewall beats Waff. I needed to kind of make those matchups a little more favorable, even if it's only 10%. Instead of going 60-40 or 40-60, we try to make it 70-30 at the very least. You know what I mean? Or 50-50. And so I really enjoyed those odds. That 10% kind of makes a difference sometimes. So Hecaton's there for things like that. Doga too, Unai, decks of that nature. Mist Dragons. This card paired with Seraphi obviously is if you guys don't know the combo, I'll say it anyway. You play Seraphi, mid to late game. Convince your opponent you're gonna let him get something, but then you'll respond with Mist Dragon, and then they don't get it, and you get to recover something. You can always just Mist Dragon very openly, just do it, see if he has anything, then play it, so you're not stuck in a chain, you're not trapped, you don't trap yourself, which is just as good too, because you'll be able to play Mist Dragon, draw a card, and then see where you are ahead of time. So you don't, maybe the first choice you thought you were going to get was a land, but instead you end up getting the Rain instead if you drew something, you know what I'm saying? So being able to remove your opponent's breakzone is very important. which is, you know, another thing that we need against like Rampier and Weewall, um, which were the main threats that everyone was concerned about going into this weekend. No one expected, like, the top tables had a lot of weird decks, which I was really happy about. There was an Earth Water, which I never got to see, but then there was the, you know, the OTK deck that I shared, Irvin's deck. There was a Warrior of Light deck that I didn't get to see either. I think it was someone was on that Shantoto lockdown, total Shantoto recall, and so there was that. The Ifrits helps us, you know, remove forwards and kind of like elevate these guys a little bit. The problem with this is that it's a 3-drop. Obviously, Felthanos is a thing. And I'm actually glad that only Rampier is running him effectively. And so I didn't need to worry so much. I did have this Bahamut for that reason. This also helps in other weird matchups, like things with, what's her name? Aerith. Being able to just remove this Aerith and something else at sometimes seems really strong, because Aerith gets, like, helps reduce damage. Aerith and Minwu, anything with the Minwu ability kind of shuts this deck down a little bit. And so like Cecil and Larsa and stuff like that. But this helps us get really deep in there and like over the, you know, over effects like that, and could kind of help make the deck a little stronger. Luminous Puma, like I said, Citra is there to recur this, and then you kind of have that same Larkishus loop. You know what I'm saying? You can play this to get Citra back, pitch this, like pitch it for its effect to get something else back. Next turn, play this, get the Puma back. You know, drop Puma, get something back, wait till Citra dies, recur Citra, etc., etc. So instead of Larkishus, which is the right color, I opted out for Citra for this. And then the backups are pretty straightforward. 2 Seguardes, Pelennor, you know, this to break Ilua's bubble, this to finish things off with when we have our first strikers like Brandelis and Lan. This is just simple recursion. This one is also just help the curve a little bit if you have it. You know, if you have Lan or Rain, it costs 1. I always forget it, but it's important not to. And then giving Brave when necessary. I actually want to cut this to 2, but we need more fire. I don't predict that there will be any more WoF stuff for a little while. Like, I don't think we're getting any WoF stuff next set. Probably not for a few sets, honestly. So this deck is going to stay very similar to these, like with these backups. The Lebro to help in the mirror as well. And again, like all these deck ideas, like this deck, the idea was to fight those 3 decks all day. Obviously that's unrealistic, and everyone should know this. You can always prepare for those decks, but you also have to prepare for the variety of everything, which is always tough. But naturally, like, top tier decks like these just have a natural curve against those, like natural innate things that they handle relatively well. So, like I said, you always want to increase those chances as always. So the Lebro just helps get over bigger things. With Lebro out, like at least Rain and Cloud and Hyun threaten what's his name, Felthanos, or big stuff from Rampier, and also prevents us from dying from 2 shots on the mirror matches. So very useful. The girl who forgot her name, trying to fit 3 because you always want to search, start getting the pieces out little by little. But I opted out for Iridia, because I wanted to guarantee I got the Hecaton, the Mist, the Bahamut, or the Titan at the very least. And triple Rorik, just recursion, EX bursts, keep the count high. If you look here, and I hope it's not in the way, but we have 16 EX bursts. That number should actually be higher. I was hoping to try to fit more in, but again, we opted out for this and this, and these summon choices is what brought that down, right? Because effectively I had another Chusith, which would be 17, and then we were going for big summons originally, or this Deleta should have been maybe another Seraphi and things like that. So we could have easily gotten to 20 EX bursts, which is somewhere this deck likes to be. But again, I chose I chose the odds instead of the favorability. But yeah, so that's the list. Again, ended up 19th. Yeah, and then we can go into these. So yeah, so last choice, just to go over it one last time, the reunion recap card choices here were the Hekaton Chair, the Bahamut, and the Titan, mainly for the rogues, things that required the Doga Yune and the 5-drop Yuna against Weewall. The Bahamut was mainly for Thanos, obviously, and to get rid of other big obstacles. Also, because it removes from the game, it helps like in the mirror match a little bit. If I remove the rain and if I start removing rains, then the deck can't recur. So I know it is a costly card, but it really is helpful. Simple plays that you can do with some of these is just like, you can do 10k, 10k to two things. If you have Terra on board, it'll shoot for two, and then if you have your rain and lands out or whatever, if you have your rain out and you're swinging, you can deal 4k there, so that's an extra 6k to something else. It might effectively kill something. And so, but being able to recur, it's always nice too. So it's always a threatening thing for your opponent when they have like two big bodies on board that took them a lot of resources to keep out or protect and stuff like that. The Titan, a couple of things here was choose a forward you control, give it 1,000 power, or all forwards you control gain Brave, which is giving someone 1,000 power sometimes could make the difference against a Fusoya, and it has in the past for me, so I kept this along. I used to have this at 2, and then giving everyone Brave is just a really like tough thing for your opponent, right? Because let's say you're at 6 damage, right? And and obviously this deck needs to turn sideways, attack in order for it to work. But if you're able to give everyone Brave, they can attack freely. You can still like pop, start killing things, but you also have the defense for the next turn. And then the one that's obviously the most interesting of this card, and which is why I love it, is all your forwards you control gain. This forward cannot become dull by your opponent's summons or abilities until the end of the turn, which means no Hein, which means no. Hein was one of the main reasons, but it's also against like snow and anything ice related. So it is a tech card for ice. And I'm gonna, it's funny too. I needed more tech cards for ice, so I didn't go over it a little bit before, but just run through it really quick. My matchups were round 1 Rampier. I got that one. The second one was Mono Ice. I lost because my opponent, I think it's Ryan or Brian. Sorry if I'm pretty sure it's Ryan. Drops a backup and then realizes I'm playing WoF, and then pitches 3 for Sephiroth on turn 2, and has the Shadow Flare in his hand for the next turn. So I kind of played a little rough there. I had 2 options, and I went with what I thought was the better one against the discard. I went for 3 backups instead of dropping. Let's go here. My boy Delita. And so I think realistically, if I had dropped Delita on turn 2 as opposed to making 3 backups, keeping Rain and Delita in hand, it would have been a lot better. But I went for the latter, obviously, and I played triple backups, 2 cards in hand. Was hoping for EX bursts and like kind of just to draw into everything I had hoped, like anyone hopes, right? But yeah, that didn't work out for me. So round 3 was actually against Alex from the Mysidia Post, another YouTuber, great guy. Earth Ice, same thing though. He starts shadow flaring me, and I guess ultimately this deck suffers a lot from that because we kind of hold. This deck is very explosive, right? So it kind of sets up the board. And then it holds for an opportunity, drops 4 forwards, and then, because we need to increase the numbers of the WoF characters so Rain is free. And when you can't do that, it struggles, obviously, and that's just what it is. Round 4 and 5 were Weewa. It was against the regular Weewa and then Weewa Monsters, which you saw on my channel if you haven't checked out the videos. And then it was triple WoFs back to back. So I beat the first WoF, lost to the second WoF, and then beat the last WoF on my final round. Delita played a really good role in those. So did the Rydia. The Citra was always just a great card, which is why I want to highlight it here. But the Rydia helped me have the Mist Dragon ready, locked and loaded, and then dropping a Delita against one of those WoF matches. I can't remember which one. Just kind of prevented him from attacking. Because, yeah, they'll kill him, but it'll take 3 of his units to target him, and Delita will break them all. The other WoF I lost I was honestly super furious about that one. And I believe his name was Joe. Good guy. It wasn't anything with him. It was just me. The deck totally bricked. I was pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I was ahead. Five backups, three forwards, full like two cards in hand. But for 4 turns, literally, I drew the same backups, and I didn't see anything, and I couldn't get over his nail because I only had the 2 cost land and a 7K Brandelis. And then like I had made like an error in tapping colors, so it forced me to pitch out of my hand a Kusith that I had. It was silly stuff, but and then I drew backups, like literally 8 cards, 4 turns, straight backups. And then when he eventually hit me, it hits a rain and something else and no EX bears. It's just bad beats. Like, the deck didn't do anything that game, which is frustrating as always. But overall, really good day. Yeah, these are really good choices for the meta right now. Unfortunately, the meta is shifting right now, so I haven't really prepared for that. We're going to talk about the top decks coming up in a few weeks, hopefully on the cast. But yeah, so guys, I hope you like this video. Shout outs to everyone who made the reunion possible, and all the friends and I see. And honestly, I hope to see you guys at more events this week. There's nothing from now until Tampa in terms of majors for us, I don't think. But I'm going to be there. If you guys are coming out, feel free to hit me up with stuff. My community challenge is coming up next week. So we will work on that. And, or it's coming up soon, but I'll let you guys know. You'll know when you see it. So I'm going to make sure to post it on the Facebook page and on my Twitter. So follow those if you haven't yet. Yeah, I'll catch you guys later.